Well, this is totally planned, everyone. We bamboozled you. You thought you were getting a stream yesterday. Joke's on you. It's actually today. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Untitled Sickcos project, where the thumbnail is the audio muted?
Mm.
Oh, I hear it from my phone. Okay, never mind. Nothing is all. And anywho, welcome to the Untitled Sickos project, where the thumbnail is high quality. You're seeing things wrong. It is an appropriate thumbnail, and we are at the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory from tonight's episode. I am I am Bears fan, and I am joined besides three other co-hosts. Uh, Nothing's changed. You're just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hello, I'm Nick Man. I still owe the Purdue football program an apology for picking them against Notre Dame last week. I still gotta deal with that.
I'm Jugger Bear. I am very sick, so name definitely applies to me. Otherwise, Yankees are in the playoffs, so look forward to when they inevitably get bounced and I have to humiliate myself ritualistically for all of you.
And Noah here. I just saw the Phils clinch Red October, and that's what I'm focused on right now. Alongside hoping Penn State doesn't implode for the 50th time.
Look, I'm sorry, man. As an Iowa guy, the Penn State tears are hilarious for me. I don't even know if last time I checked, they're beating Minnesota right now, and we might have a 5 points vids breakdown if Iowa ends up losing to Minnesota by the end of the night. But we don't have to worry about that now. So of course we have a couple injury updates. So Luke can't join because work and everything, and Spencer can't join because he has came down with the case of in New Jersey. So like, we can
It's
only pray
terminal,
for his
unfortunately.
recovery. Uh, we can only pray for his recovery. But you know what? It's fine. We have two of the best sicko members in the world, Jugger Bear and Noah. Nick and I are just, just we're here. It's
Yeah,
their show,
yeah, we're all
actually.
we're all here we're all here to save the ship, okay? We are trying to salvage this, okay? We are fixing this ship whether it kills us or not.
Yep. Um, you know, uh, we'll keep on rolling with this. We have plenty of stuff to talk about with the welcome at this week, but I feel like the first topic we need to take a catch on is so everyone here has seen the worst idea ever made, right? And I'm not talking about. And I'm not talking about. And I'm not talking about Vegemite. I'm talking about the worst football decision ever made.
Oh God. I feel like I could try and half-ass something and say like, well, I'm sure you're talking about insert shitty product here, but I can't even do that with this because the brain rot that I got from being in this server for 2 minutes was enough to equal the amount of brain rot I have gotten from a quick visit on TikTok. And of course, the thing we are talking about here is the new NFL Discord server.
But Nick, it's the greatest idea ever. You don't understand,
Yeah,
man.
who doesn't want
Putting a
a
bunch of
clan rally mixed with a furry convention?
two of the just most appropriate size together. It's just, dude, what were they thinking? Like, I get it's like a bit of a joke to say that, but like, what were they thinking?
To be perfectly fair, it may be the most fitting name. It might be the most fitting server for Discord of all time, because
Hmm.
it's nothing but Discord.
True.
That is reasonable. That is completely reasonable. It's just the thing is, sometimes you get some whack screenshots occasionally from like, a bigger Discord server. These guys are pumping out whack screenshots on the minute. Like it is truly one of the most degenerate and horrible things I have ever seen in my life. And I watched the entirety of Bears Chiefs and Bears Chargers last year. So, my only question here is how much do you think the moderators are getting paid? Because I have my answer, and that answer is not enough.
Yeah, probably not enough. I mean, I'm looking back at the thread about why the NFL Discord was a bad idea. A thread. And I'm not gonna say what the first thing says, but yeah, you look at the thing, you can definitely see why this thread is off to an excellent start. And just gotta say, uh, shout out to shout out to one of my friends on Discord, Fireball, for being included in the thread where he says, "Chat, should I microwave my balls?" And he got 8 check marks for saying that.
You know what? Simply put, he's asking questions that we need answers to. Granted, those answers provide nothing to society, but we need those answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just. Here's the thing. The idea of it isn't bad, but it's different if you just like softly announce it. Like if you're just like dropping it out of nowhere and just people start to get in, because at least you can get a bit of a step up on the dumbasses who are getting in early. But this isn't that. This is straight, and I mean straight swamp ass. This is a travesty. And I don't know how you fix it. I genuinely don't.
Well, I know one way to fix it, but that would include nuking. I think we're trying to think of ways to fix this that isn't just, dropping the nukes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It could be worse. You could be in the Untitled Sickcos Project Discord server, which is readily available for all of those listening right now to join the server at any time. Keep in mind, you can join in anytime you want. It is no fee. You can join in, you can be happy, you can do whatever you want, except you can't. There's some rules. But if you want to see a not shit show of a server, join the Discord server. Check out one of the links. I think Nick put it in the description. If
Yep.
not,
Mm-hmm.
okay, good. So you do get the Cheez-Its. You still get to have your box of Cheez-Its. Otherwise, I
Yes.
would have taken it and you would have been going hungry again. Anywho, I fucking I either elbowed myself or like I got some dirt on like the side of my leg because like it is kind of looking purple or at least darkish. But back on topic, the NFL Week 2. That was something that happened.
As we discussed last time, we almost saw Tua Tagovailoa die again.
Not to mention, too, the Saints.
hmm
They're
All hail Derek Carr.
This Derek Carr is still not better than Baker Mayfield, but you want to know something? He might be better. He might be better than Jared Goff. He might be better.
Listen, it's to be said, whenever the Saints do well, the murder rate in New Orleans always falls. And this is why Derek Carr is fixing crime in New Orleans.
That's
He is
right, the
saving
murder rate
city
is
right.
lower.
Crazy. But obviously, I feel like it's time to get into the games from last week. Starting off with Buffalo, Miami. me and Nick can testify to saying this because we watched it with a couple of friends in a Discord in the same Discord server that I think Jugger Bear is also in because I think he did watch a bit of that game too. That was one of the most boring and like just depressing games we've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a pretty lackluster game. I don't really have much to say about the game itself, given it's, given been over a week, and honestly, I feel like we talked a little bit about Bills Dolphins last week, but all I really got to say about um, Bills and Dolphins for the time being is gonna be interesting to see how Tua progresses through these next 4 weeks, because I know he's been placed on IR, which is the right move. But what was really interesting to me about the statement, at least from what I heard from Rappaport, was how, yeah, there's no exact timetable with Tua going forward after this. Like, there's no timetable, which really tells you that, okay, they're definitely, like, they're handling this very carefully, because they're probably going to be keeping a close eye on how these symptoms, progress for Tua, while he's recovering from yet another concussion, because I mean, we all know how much of an effect concussions has on these players, and especially when you have more and more, as Tua has had a lot of them. And yeah, gonna be just really interested when I saw the wording that, like, there's no timetable with this. So that was just really, really something to note with that.
And of course, we gotta hope Tua gets better because like this is just not good. This isn't
Yeah.
good for football at all. Like Tua's a
hmm
genuinely liked guy in the NFL, and the fact that someone like him is going to have to go through something like that just really sucks.
Yeah.
But
Really does suck. As for the Bills, I'll probably save them. I'll save the Bills a little more when we talk about their upcoming opponent in one of the following games. But Bills, they did their job, did what they had to do, and got a pretty easy win. So good
Hmm.
for the Bills.
yeah,
Another thing to keep in mind was before the whole concussion scare, Tua went down, not went down, but he was turning the ball over a whole lot there where it was just constant picks.
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. As I said, Bills played a great game that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, we have some unboring games. Yes, I said unboring. No, I do not care about my grammar. Uh, but going on to next week's games, let's just start it out with Cowboys and Saints because I know Jugger Bear wants to preach about the glorious Saints and them marching in, beating a Dallas team who's
Questionable to say the least.
probably yeah.
So to start this off, though,
You
Derek Carr has just been a monster these first 2 weeks. Where again, it's the first 2 weeks of the season. This is basically glorified preseason, but just I think for their first however many drives, though, they didn't have a single. I don't think they had a single turnover, but they didn't even punt the ball also, which is just absurd because going into this season, we're thinking this team's going to be mediocrity personified.
Mm-hmm.
right, and then Derek Carr was like, you know what, I'm him, and then decided to go off. And I'm sure we've all seen the videos saying that Derek Carr just somehow goes off during election years, which like all for him, brother. I mean, if I could make the bag by being good during election season, I would do it too. But I do kind of want to talk about the Cowboys and CD Lamb. Why didn't you just be like, I want out of here? Come on, man. You had one job. Now you have to be stuck there forever and be wasted. And hopefully not wasted as in the part of like, hey, I'm drinking and driving. Hopefully wasted in the part of, wow, I'm Calvin Ridley 2.0.
Yeah. Um, that just felt like it was another game where the Saints offense once again showed up and showed that, hey, yeah, this is this is a new hopium for the New Orleans Saints and their fans. And while the Cowboys, it just felt like, god damn, their defense just got completely and utterly cooked in every single metric. Like everything they could try and do to stop the Saints offense was completely failing, just failing miserably. Like it wasn't even coming close to seeing results. They just were getting absolutely dismantled in any way you could ever imagine by this Saints offense.
I mean, then again, though, Jerry Jones doesn't really care. I mean, I think, was it Rich Eisen that said it best? Jerry Jones does not care about winning a Super Bowl. He cares about putting people in seats.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys can have the greatest regular season of all time, and that's Jerry Jones' Super Bowl, because he'll make
Hmm.
endless amounts of money because Cowboys fans are dumb enough to still be okay with this. Well, granted, they're
Well,
not okay with it.
oh yeah, they're
But
not
they keep
okay with it.
buying.
It's more just yeah, they're not okay with it.
Which
But also, it's like that's what happens when you might be an egotistical maniac that also doesn't want to build a proper football team, but you also know how to create a brand. And the Dallas Cowboys are a brand that have grown so freaking massive that basically they could go 9-8 every season, but it's not going to matter to Jerry because they're that big of a brand that they'll make the biggest goddamn profit imaginable, especially at AT&T Stadium. Like, you kidding me with that stadium?
like that's a stadium that's hosted Super Bowls before. And like I'm sorry, there's not many of those in the NFL. He gets to
Hmm.
have his big old Superdome and just get to do whatever the hell he wants. And the thing is with Cowboys fans, I'm sorry, but there's not going to be any change until he's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think they know that now too, because like how else can you like describe the Cowboys start this season? They have not been that great at all.
I mean, what's the point of trying to make him sell when you know that's impossible? Because who on God's green earth would sell the Dallas Cowboys, especially when you are talking about Jerry Jones? Like that man is owning that team until he croaks.
Mm-hmm. Which, considering his age,
That
might be
just
sooner
sucks.
rather than later.
That's true.
Obviously, we don't hope death here,
Mm-hmm.
but like
Yeah.
some point, push has to come to shove. But yeah, TLDR, I'm not impressed with Dallas. Saints might be legit, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to the Saints real quick because I also feel like this game was the biggest testament to just how expired Pete Carmichael was. For as long time as he was, and for as good as he was at in the Saints' best years, it was very obvious under the Dennis Allen era that the Saints offense just completely stagnated with him as the offensive coordinator. And Clint Kubiak has been the antidote that the Saints needed so badly. There's an
Absolutely.
air
Hey,
raid offense. There's explosive plays going on. The red zone is no longer a big issue with them. That killed them all the time last year.
the Saints are starting to become LSU, and that's kind of how I'm viewing them right now. Can Derek Carr have a renaissance in New Orleans? I mean, Rich Gannon did so in Oakland, so like, who knows?
And don't
But
worry,
I
we
will
will. I will say this: we will get to Carmichael and his good friend much later. We will get to him
I
later.
will finish it off with this though. Um, Dennis Allen, I still think should be fired, but maybe this is like a Matt Eberflus type thing where he's just good at calling defense and nothing else. And like, if that's the case, you know what? If I gotta give Matt Eberflus credit for that, I have to give Dennis Allen credit for that too.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, Saints. Hope they keep being interesting. Anyways, next game. What's the next game you think we should talk about?
Well, we started off with a little bit of a banger. Let's go to a little bit of a stinker of a game. And quick before that comes. The fucking Gophers are up by 14 now. I love Iowa football. I love this team. I love losing. I love losing close games by 7 points because Cade McNown decides to be a fucking idiot and doesn't want to be like he was in fucking Michigan anymore. Oh, I want to be what I was. I want to be an Ohioan now. Well, guess what, buddy? No, we want you in your Michigan form, not this fucking bullshit ass goddamn CJ Beathard form. CJ Beathard, God, stinker time. Browns versus Jaguars. I hate both these teams. They both need to. They both need to deserve to stop playing football because they're a pain on my eyes.
I have some things to say. Not really about the Browns, because the Browns, my thoughts haven't changed. Their offense will forever be a questionable mess with the perv at the quarterback, but also their defense is still the Browns' defense, which has been very, very strong. Jaguars, on the other hand, and I've been thinking about this since this game happened, and the more I think about it, the more I think, depending on how these next two games go, this feels very possible. This feels like a very possible option. What do I mean by that? Well, my consensus right now with the Jaguars and a certain someone on that coaching staff, and looking at other NFL coaches around the league, I think there's a good bet to say, it's fair to say this, I think it would be fair to say that there is a great chance Doug Peterson is the first head coach fired this season. I think there's a strong shot of that happening. And I know the Jaguars, 0-2 is not the end of the world by any means, unless you're the Panthers. But I look at their schedule. I look at the Jaguars' schedule, and seeing that they lost this game to the Browns, I'm just sitting here like, God damn, they got a gauntlet right here, because their game this week is against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. And I know Josh Allen hasn't been great on Monday Night Football. I'm well aware of that. But at the same time, it's an 0-2 Jaguars team heading into Buffalo against a 2-0 Bills team. That is going to be tough as hell. And then to follow that up, they play the Texans the following week in Houston. So, there's a real shot the Jaguars start off the season 0-4. And after that, it's not like it's going to be, cakewalk afterwards, because you play the Colts, which the Colts will definitely be a tough opponent for Jacksonville, and the Bears in the international game, which, that's also going to be that will also be a tough opponent for them, knowing the Bears' defense. So, there's a lot of pressure right now on this Jacksonville Jaguars team, because you're 0-2 already. You just suffered an awful loss against the Cleveland Browns. Trevor Lawrence looked terrible against the Browns. The offense looked like a discombobulated mess out there. Apparently, you healthy scratched your second-round pick for some reason, and now you're 0-2 heading into one of the toughest environments in football. The hot seats in Jacksonville are only going to keep getting hotter.
Well, not only that too, but it's like I still go back to their draft. You have very big needs on defense. I don't care that we have Josh Allen and we have I forget his name. He is the most non-talked about first overall pick ever.
Trayvon Walker.
Like they have Trayvon Walker, that guy does not exist. He's not a real person. And until he gets double-digit sacks, I'm not going to say he's a real person. But, why are you getting wide receiver? You have so many other needs. But you want to get another weapon for Trevor because, oh no, he didn't look too good with Christian Kirk, who overperformed on his first ever contract there. He has Evan Ingram, who has hands now. Oh,
And is also injured.
We lost Calvin Ridley. Yeah. Oh, but we lost Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is not that good. I'm not saying that he's a bad player, but he is a guy that can easily be replaced. In fact, you have your replacement, Christian Kirk. You
Okay,
traded for him because. Go ahead, Nick.
oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, to be fair, I will say about Brian Thomas Jr. He has been one of the few things to go right for Jacksonville so far this season. He has been one of the few things to go right. And I do know you mentioned
Hey,
Christian
and
Kirk, who you do mention him. The only thing is, the thing that's concerning though is that, and to be fair, this speaks more about the Jaguars' offense and probably the play calling from Press Taylor than it does Kirk. But it feels like Jacksonville has not utilized Christian Kirk so far this season, which that's concerning.
oh, it is. But my point still stands. Like, even though he's playing well, it's like the Bears getting Jimmy Graham in 2020. Like, yeah, he overperformed on his contract. You still don't really need him. And at least with Christian Kirk, the Jaguars needed a wide receiver. The
Oh yeah.
Jaguars don't need another wide receiver. They needed they needed a cornerback. They needed a safety. They needed something other than Brian Thomas Jr.
And
They
it's
could have
just, it's
been they could have
interesting to
been
me though. Yeah, it's you mentioned defense, and you mentioned the defense, and I know I brought this up, but I'll bring it again just to put more emphasis on it. They did take Mason Smith in the second round. You know what they did with Mason Smith this week? With their second round defensive draft pick, the first defensive guy they drafted in this draft class, they healthy scratched him. What the fuck? Like, why are you healthy
eh,
scratching him?
I don't know. Jacksonville's a bit of a wreck right now, and the fact of the matter is Jacksonville is making Cleveland like people not worry about Cleveland, which like granted, I think a lot of people don't want to talk about Cleveland because it's Cleveland. But also too,
Mm.
Doug Peterson, he needs to go. There is a reason he was fired, and he should have stayed fired. But think but because Urban Meyer exists and literally anyone's better than Urban Meyer, you had to get
I feel like
someone
this has
you
kind of
went
been
with some
I feel like
You can
this
go
has been
ahead,
a
Noah.
trend for Dougie P. This same thing happened with him as an Eagle too. As the head coach, he was actually really good to start it. He had a great magical year, and then every year after, he just got worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing that happened in Philadelphia is happening with Jacksonville. Great start, and every year has gotten worse.
Yep, it just gets worse and worse until the bottom just completely falls out. And it definitely feels like with Jacksonville, though, it's definitely happening a lot quicker than it did with him in Philly. But yeah.
But you don't get it, guys. But you don't get it, guys. The Jaguars beat a choking Chargers team with Brandon Staley as head coach in the playoffs in the wild card, and they almost beat the Chiefs. We have total stability. Tony Khan says. Tony Khan says as he's running AEW into the ground because he refuses to accept the fact that the WWE just isn't going to be something he should be fighting against right now, and instead should be teaming up with other divisions like TNA and not New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it would be pretty entertaining to see someone follow Tony's route and be on the sideline wearing the neck brace like he wore during the draft.
True. But
But
yeah,
Jacksonville,
both those
yeah,
teams suck.
Cleveland, go away. Jacksonville, get your shit together. Like, really, get your shit together.
All right. Let's get this game out of the way too while we're at it. Chargers Panthers. The Panthers suck. Moving on.
Yeah,
There is no nice things happening in Carolina.
yeah, you
They're
suck.
so
Please get out of my face.
they're
Yeah,
so
I want to
bad.
go a little bit further in there. Do you remember that one Packers game where Bryce Young actually looked pretty good? I know it was Joe Barry, but my God, man, the dude looks like a Madden player. He's awful.
Mm-hmm.
There was a play in particular where Thielen was wide open, extremely wide open. That would have been a huge pass for maybe 30 yards, maybe 40 yards. and he didn't see him because he was running to the sideline.
Mhm.
That's my fault. I had Adam Thielen on my fantasy team, so I take full blame for that. Sorry.
I
But
mean,
like
I'll quickly comment on that because I have not seen a quarterback to this level of like Bryce Young. I've not seen a quarterback this broken since Jamarcus Russell. I have not seen someone be look this broken, look this much of like a shell of what people were expecting someone to be since the biggest draft bust in NFL history. Like that is not someone you want to be compared to.
I think that he is the worst first overall pick of all time. Simply put,
Not just for the
there's
way he's
no.
performing, but what they sacrificed for him too.
Oh. I would love to talk about that forever, but it'd be like beating the dead horse, but the horse has been dead for over a century now.
Yeah.
5 names will haunt them: DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, and future second round pick.
Yep.
Not even when he's drafted, it's going to be future second round pick.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, at this rate, it's like, you know what? I'm surprised, with how bad that went. I'm surprised cash considerations didn't get in on the trade as well.
True. Well, moving on to a slightly better game. Let's talk about Niners Vikings. And
Sam
I'm gonna start off by
Darnold,
saying
the legend,
I'm gonna start off.
reborn like a phoenix. Sorry.
I'm going to stand strong, puff my chest, and I'm going to gloat. I told everyone about Brock Purdy. Oh, but he just doesn't match up well against the Vikings. Sure, go with that excuse. Let's all not look at the fact that Brock Purdy has a very average arm, is a decent accurate passer, doesn't really have the legs of most mobile QBs in the NFL, and he's in a system where they made Jimmy Garoppolo look decent. I'm sorry, I'm not sold on Brock Purdy. And until he proves me wrong by, winning a game that he should win, or, well, winning a game that he is, not having 30 million people to help him, I'm not going to be impressed. That being said, I am very upset that Christian McCaffrey is out for a little bit. It is always awful to see a good player be out for a while, but I'm
Yeah,
going to be real.
there's an injury bowl here. There's an injury bowl upcoming between the 49ers and the Rams, and trust me, we'll get to the Rams later because I got to watch that Rams game. But for the Vikings, I'll talk about the Vikings. I mean, Darnold, it's still early season Sam Darnold, but hey, if you're Minnesota, this is the best case scenario right here. Seeing Sam Darnold do what he's got to do, and from all accounts, Justin Jefferson looks to be fine after that game. So yeah, went very well for the Vikings there, and hey, sacking Brock Purdy 6 times. That's what you'll love to see. That defense showed up for them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'll say this about this too. Sam Darnold is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. In the NFL. Anyone who says otherwise is watching fake news. The Darnold is here to stay. And all these fake quarterbacks like Jordan Love and Drake May and Aaron Rodgers, they're all fake. The true best quarterback in the NFL is Sam Darnold, and I had to do that for Spencer. If I didn't do
Yeah,
it at least once, he'll be upset.
yes, the
But
Darnold reigns supreme. But yeah, interested to see how long the Vikings keep this up. But that's gonna be wait and see. Speaking of,
Sam Darnold's always been interesting.
oh, sorry, go
What's up?
ahead, Noah.
We didn't hear you.
Sam Darnold's
Yeah, you
always
can
been
go.
interesting to me because every year since he was drafted, he's shown those flashes of brilliance from the Jets to the Panthers to the Vikings. But he's never really been able to keep it consistent, and that's why he's kind of fizzled out into a journeyman throughout his career. I think he has a chance to be really good this year, but at the same time, as mentioned by Bears fan on his Bears recap, he could just as easily be another Fitzpatrick. So we could have a couple of huge stinkers down the line.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, like, that's my entire thing about Sam Darnold. He is such the Ryan Fitzpatrick ass quarterback that, like, he has to be the next guy. He even looks like him. Put a beard on that guy. He looks like him. But like Sam Darnold, I think if he keeps on playing as he is, you know, I could potentially see him being a starting QB on a team next year. Uh, if you guys are wondering what that team is, I'm gonna give you a bit of a hot take. I think it's the Raiders. I think the Raiders go cheap again, and I think they're gonna take a chance on Sam Darnold, and that's why I brought up Rich Gannon earlier. You want to know who had a similar career trajectory as Rich Gannon? Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, man. Keep a lookout for the Darnold.
Look, all
But
I'm gonna say about that is, listen, Darnold can go wherever he wants, as long as it's not the Panthers again.
I don't think he wants to go there. To be fair, I
Yeah,
don't even
Who
think Baker
would?
wants to go there.
yeah, that's a good point. Who would? But you do mention the Raiders, and I think that's actually a good transition to talk about our next game, which I got to watch this game in full, and yeah, I'm still amazed the Raiders beat the Ravens. Genuinely, I'm still amazed that happened. But my God, the Raiders have a better record than the Ravens right now.
Can I say this real quick? Can I say this? I don't think the
Hmm.
Raiders are also that bad. They have a very strong defense, and you know what? Gardner Minshew, he can go off for a couple of games. As long as you have your defense win you a couple games, you can have, two or not two or three. You can have four or five pretty good Gardner Minshew performances, and that takes you to the playoffs
Yeah, I
if you're in
mean,
the
here's the
NFC.
thing.
In the AFC, we'll see. But I don't think the Raiders are that bad.
You know, getting to watch this game and watching it, because this was the only game on at the time here in Vegas, but first half of this game was really, it felt similar to the Raiders Chargers game in week 1, where it just felt really ugly, and you just had field goal after field goal. It was basically just a mess up where the Raiders were playing like shit and the Ravens were not taking advantage of said opposing team playing like shit, even though I will say the Raiders defense, this game has definitely told me this Raiders defense is very good. And I saw it last season with my own eyes, but this game definitely confirmed that to me that, hey, the Raiders defense knows what they're doing. But, in the third quarter, and then even in the fourth quarter, it's like, okay, the Ravens are up by 10. They're going to take care of business here. I mean, at least the Raiders looked a bit better than week 1. But the offense just still looks like shit for the Raiders. That it's like, okay, at least they gave a better fight here. But you want to know what happened? You want to know what happened in the fourth quarter? At some point in the fourth
The
quarter, I don't
Raiders
know.
lost.
No, at some point in the fourth quarter, I don't know how this happened, but there was a light bulb that lit up in Luke Getzey's head. A light bulb that told him, oh yeah, I have this guy called Devontae Adams. I know that guy. I should fucking use him. And you know what happens? The Raiders offense comes to life in the fourth quarter because Devontae Adams had at least 100 yards in that fourth quarter. And he had been a ghost for most of the game, and then he just completely goes off in the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, the Raiders, they have come back to tie this game against the Ravens. And after after the Ravens offense stalls again. The Raiders go down and they get a game-winning field goal, and they stun the Ravens, who, for what is not the only time they've done this, blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. How about that? How about that? How about that for some Raiders football?
You know, I think sometimes stuff just works,
Yeah.
and you just got to be okay with it.
Yeah, and I mean,
And
Minshew did what he had to do. Like, that's the standard Minshew game. And it's like, if the Raiders defense can play well, that will be enough for the Raiders to get some good wins. And I said this in the preview. The Raiders are a team that's going to be, the Raiders are a team that's going to be frustrating to themselves and their fans, but also equally, if not more frustrating to opponents. Like they're the definition of a competitive team that's a pain in the ass to play against. And this game against the Ravens perfectly showed that. I mean, the run game still wasn't there. I mean, God forbid, you know how bad the run game is when on a third and short, you're trying to have Amir Abdullah get you a first down in the year 2024. Like, that was pretty funny to watch in the first half. But there is something I will note about the Raiders that even if it's only been 2 games, I can already say I like what I've seen from this man. It needs to be said because I don't like to overreact a lot, but there's a real possibility that by the end of week 4, I'm going to be saying that Brock Bowers is already a top 5 tight end in football. This guy is fucking good. This guy is damn good, and he's already ahead of schedule.
the thing is, too, this is just the matter of fact that tight ends have just genuinely not been that great this year. And yeah, Brock
That's
Bowers
true.
doesn't have a touchdown yet, but like, I mean, not a lot of teams do right now. Travis Kelsey is like flip flopping between wanting to be Taylor Swift's boyfriend and wanting to play football. George Kittle can't stay healthy to save his life. Uh, Dallas Goddard, moving on. Cole Kmet,
Mhm.
he just doesn't play at all anymore. Evan Ingram's hurt. Dalton Schultz is getting basically outclassed by everyone else on the Texans. And like
Mhm.
Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely might be having beef with each other because both are tight end ones in that offense. So like if we're talking about like true tight end number ones right now, I honestly don't even think it's that crazy to say that Brock Bowers has been the best tight end in the NFL this year.
Yeah, it's a very valid thing to say. And while that Raiders offense has looked, if if they can do just enough to tell Luke Getzey, hey, just call some of these plays and we'll be fine, then yeah, the Raiders offense actually can do some things given the weapons that they have with guys like Adams and Bowers. I will say, because I really focus on the Raiders here. Damn, the Ravens are 0-2. And I swear to God, if they don't beat the Cowboys, we're gonna be having a serious discussion here because that you would fall to 0-3, and your next 2 opponents are the Bills and the Bengals.
That's not two teams you want to be right next to. And all I can say about that is just yikes.
Yeah, this is
Speak.
this is
Oh,
yeah.
I was gonna say, speaking of other teams, or well, speaking of good tight ends, Seahawks versus Patriots. Hunter Henry, I'm gonna have to ask you to calm down. It's not 2017 anymore. You're old. You're washed. Stop getting 100 yard reception games. You're in the Patriots. You're not supposed to be trying this hard.
Yeah, that's funny to look. That's funny to look back on, knowing how Thursday went. But yeah, Patriots, even after this recent game, I still say the Patriots, while they're definitely not a good team. They're a scrappy team. They'll be annoying they'll annoy other teams, and that's for a rebuilding team for the Patriots, where you're basically just going out there and just having Jacoby Brissett take every sacrifice imaginable so Drake May doesn't have to. It's it's the least you can probably ask for from New England. As for the Seahawks, 2-0. Geno is looking more like 2022 Geno than 2023 Geno. And the fact that they, went out there and played a pretty solid game offensively without Kenneth Walker, you love to see that. You really love to see that.
Well, not to mention too, it's just the Seahawks. It's because Luke's not very positive about them, but the Seahawks aren't a bad team. They're in a
Yeah,
very
they're not
good
bad.
conference. They're in a very good conference. They are the Vanderbilts of the SEC. That is the well, right now the Rams are Vanderbilt, but they're like the Arkansas now of the NFC West, and that's fine. The Seahawks are probably going to be fighting for a playoff spot come that time, and it's just they're a good team. Even with Pete Carroll being gone, Mike McDonald has been relatively good as head coach. He has called pretty good plays, and he has kept his team in games to win. So, like,
Yep.
there's not really much else to say.
Yeah, it's just what you want to see from the Seahawks to start the year, but yeah, good stuff, Seattle.
Moving on to a team that, actually matters. Not the Seahawks. We have the Giants and Commanders, the two best teams in the world right now. Daniel Jones.
If you don't count the other
and
30, actually 29 teams, we don't count the Panthers as an NFL team.
Oh, right. No, it's the Birmingham Stallions. They're getting brought up. Didn't you know? I thought you read the news.
I must have missed it.
But yeah, the Giants and Commanders. Lol Giants, you lost to a kicker that was on the same couch as me watching Red Zone last week. Point and
The way
laugh.
that game started was absolutely stupid. Getting Gano injured before the game even started on the very kickoff. That's just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Cost them the team right then and there. They scored 3 touchdowns, but didn't have a kicker to kick extra points.
Well, that's the kicker. They don't have one.
Oh God.
But yeah, that was a sad game.
Yeah, it needs to be said because there's a bald man currently talking to me, and he's saying he's got some sources for me to say. Let's see, what's the sources you got me to say, you bald bastard? Oh, here it is. Sources tell me the Giants suck.
You know what? With the amount of fake news there are out there, I believe this guy.
Yeah. Thanks, random bald guy I've never seen before and I'm not a mod for.
Exactly. But yeah, the Giants are bad. They're horrible. If it wasn't for the Panthers, that team might be 0-17. But I will say this though. I hope Daniel Jones leaves his talent in America and gets whatever he picks up in Germany, because guys, I am so really scared that the Germans are going to be pissed that we gave them Panthers Giants.
Yeah. That's you want to talk about introducing a German audience to an American horror show. That is that's a great way to do that.
And we're not talking about the TV show American Horror Show. I think that's what it's called now. I haven't watched it since I was like...
I know. Whatever it is, you get the damn point, though. It's like, they're going to be looking at this and saying, is this what American football is? Is this what American football's supposed to be?
The answer, no.
You see, in America, you get good games. Like uh there's no really good games on the next week. Moving on. Uh but yeah, that game, looking back on it, that's gonna be a horrible game.
Yeah.
That's gonna actually not feed any families. Many will die.
Hmm. Anyways, for a team that's actually feeding families and not making their fan base starve, the Buccaneers beating the Lions.
I'm still sticking by my statement that the Lions are overrated. I don't think they're that great of a team. I think they're a good team, but like you went from playing baby Charmenshoft games last year to playing like actually competent teams. And Baker's in year 2 in Tampa. So like if Baker in a completely new system doing year 1, I knew that Baker, after he's got some ground and doesn't have to worry about having a job next year, he was going to beat them easily this week.
I mean, with the Lions, their defense played well. You sacked Baker 5 times. You got an interception. Like, the defense did its job. Look, I hate the blame. I hate to put the blame on one guy here because I never like to do that with, any team because I feel like it's like, okay, that's just lazy and all that. And it's 9 times out of 10 not what actually happened. But there's no denying the Lions lost this game because Jared Goff kept throwing interceptions. Like, he is why they lost this game.
100%. And I'm going to start by saying that Jared Goff, I was right about Jared Goff. He doesn't perform well after he gets his contract, but no one wanted to believe me.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is if Jared Goff doesn't throw one of those interceptions, there's a strong chance the Lions still win this game. Because those interceptions were just massive killers right there. And yeah, that's how the Lions struggle in week 2, because it seems that week 2 can always be a pain in the ass to the Lions.
Granted, I will give an honorable mention to Aiden Hutchinson for having the ability of being unable to be blocked by anyone in existence,
Yep, that's
which
worth
is
mentioning.
which is a really weird talent to have, but I guess it's good as a football player,
Yeah. Yeah, bro, always good to have as a football player, but regarding Tampa Bay, because I had my doubts about them only because it's like, well, you know what? We've seen how Todd Bowles coach teams do after having surprise seasons, but my big question with them was how would Baker Mayfield perform with new offensive coordinator Liam Cohen? Results are going well so far. Granted, Baker didn't have the greatest game against the Lions, but at the same time, he played a lot better than Goff did. That's all you needed.
And it's just, I don't know, man. I think Baker's probably a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. I get that. I'm gonna sound like a crackhead saying that, but like, there's not many quarterbacks that I could say right now that are definitively better than Baker Mayfield. Granted, a lot of quarterbacks have been really bad this year, but like, who could you make an argument right now, like in this season, that's playing better than Baker right now?
Yeah, it's definitely helped by the fact that not many, or at least more quarterbacks have definitely been struggling, but Baker is making a case for himself with how he keeps performing well. Like he really is making a case for himself. So that's something that I think if other quarterbacks keep struggling and Baker keeps having this renaissance, like that's something that's going to keep needing to get considered.
Yeah. Not to mention too, like Tampa still has one of the best wide receiver duos in football right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL right now, which like I mean, obviously I know he's good, but it's just crazy that Mike Evans is kind of taken back a bit this year.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mentioned how felt like bad quarterback play was what costed the Lions here. Going to another game where really bad quarterback play costed a team a win. Colts Packers. Granted, wasn't the only thing that costed the Colts this game because Josh Jacobs ran a train. He ran multiple trains on that Colts run defense.
Nick, you probably could have used a better phrasing of running a train.
You know, I probably could have, but why should I give the Colts run defense that treatment? Why shouldn't I explain to the audience that this Colts run defense just got absolutely destroyed by Josh Jacobs? Like, you deserve to say that you had a train run through you when you let Josh Jacobs cook you that badly.
They just went straight in there, no holds bars, right up the cooter.
Oh man, but yeah, that was Colts have a run defense problem, and yeah, that was definitely the biggest thing that costed them, albeit not the only big thing, because Anthony Richardson had a rough game. It was a rough game for AR-15.
I think we might have to start talking a bit. Like, obviously, nothing too serious, but like, it's like one of those signs where like you're on a date with a girl and you're like, I don't feel entirely comfortable meeting her, introducing her to my family. Kind of that feeling. Like, it's just he's still way too raw to like say anything about him. And like, that's just you can't have that even if you are going into year 2. I mean, even if you were injured year 1 and are going into year 2 with little game experience.
I mean, here's the thing, because I still, obviously, I like Anthony Richardson as a quarterback prospect, even if, you know, we know how raw he is, and, you know, I know Shane Steichen will get the most out of him, but the thing is, when I watch games like this, it reminds me, games like the ones that Richardson had against the Packers this past Sunday, are the games that reminded me as to why I was very suspicious about Anthony Richardson coming out of Florida. Because it's games like that that haunted him back in college. Because, you know, the thing with Richardson, watching him turn into a star prospect, was you're getting two versions. You're either getting the guy that looks like 2015 Cam Newton or the guy that belongs in the CFL. That's what you're getting with Anthony Richardson, because he's that inconsistent. And if I remember correctly, you gave him, like, while we were, you know, watching Thursday Night Football, I remember you gave Richardson a nickname. I believe it was, like, I don't know, like the Riddler or something.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson is like the Riddler in that case. You don't know what you're going to get with him because his play is such a mystery. Are you going to get Cam Newton? Are you going to get Kevin Kolb? Are you going to get Colin Kaepernick? Are you going to get Derek Savage? And lastly, are you going to get Matt Schaub? Or are you going to get Matt Hasselbeck? Like you get what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's more like, you know, you don't know what you're gonna get with Richardson, and for as talented of a prospect as he is, the talent is so obviously there. It's the thing that kind of defines Anthony Richardson right now. Is just the dude is as raw of a quarterback prospect as this league has ever seen, and when you get someone so raw, this is what you get.
Yeah. And it's not like I want to hate the guy. Like, he's a good football player. I don't want to hate him. It's just he just lacks so much. Like he has so much
He's got
to
a
desire.
good arm, but his decision making is still up in the air, to say the least.
Yeah.
He has Josh Allen syndrome where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this." No.
Yeah, it's like you watch him like throw like an 80-yard bomb, and it's like, oh my god, this is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. Then you watch him miss someone like 5 yards away from him, and it gets picked off. It's like, no, what are you doing, man? What the hell is this?
I put 10 racks on you, and now you're selling on me now.
I just find it funny how Richardson is honestly he's more accurate with deep balls than like he is with like, more modest throws to make. Like he's genuinely accurate as hell whenever he just yeets the ball as far as he can. But it's like whenever he has to like, it feels like I don't know if he has like I don't know if he has like the yips or anything, but it just feels like throwing it like, not that far for some reason is a much bigger challenge for him.
Anthony Richardson is the modern day Dale Gribble. He is so elite, and then you see Dale Gribble.
Oh man.
He's like, oh,
man.
there's so much here. He's such a good player. Why are you doing this now?
Yeah. Well, for Anthony Richardson, I will say this. At the very least, he's not Will Levis. Because now we get to talk about Jets versus Titans and how Will Levis once again costed the Titans a football game.
Will Levis cost the football game? More at 11.
That throw in the red zone, man, that's one of the worst throws I've ever seen.
And he's
Will,
seen Derek Savage, not Derek, Tom Savage. God, I watched Your Movie Sucks recently, and I'm just reminded of Derek Savage and Cool Cat. Oh God.
listen, Will, for the love of God, if someone is charging at you, you do not need to throw the football away like a grenade. You do not need to toss it like a grenade. The football is not a grenade, my guy. It is not going to blow up if the defender hits you. You do not need to fumble it away like that. What are you doing, Levis? Oh my God, this dude is near single-handedly why the Titans are 0-2 right now. It is hilarious.
Hey, don't say that about him. He's sensitive.
He's just a sensitive young man, Treat him a little nicer.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry,
not.
Will. I'm sorry, Will. Here's a bucket of mayo for you. I apologize.
He tossed the football. I'm a Tommy DeVito, and I toss it the football. It's it's sad.
I'm amazed that it took 2 weeks, and Will Levis has already delivered the 2 funniest images of the season.
I mean, sometimes you're just goated in what you're doing. That just happens.
I mean, it doesn't have to mean you're good at football, but hey, it can still be funny.
So what's the guess this week? Will Levis is gonna throw a football while his head's touching the ground?
He's gonna do what that Virginia Tech quarterback did today and take a safety while just yeeting the ball out of the end zone like a freaking Madden glitch. I could legitimately
really
see
fun.
Levis do that. I could actually see him doing that.
Will Levis is like, people are like, Will Levis, stop doing this. I got one more in me, man. Will Levis is the Tony Snell of football players. This man provides no value. He's just being there for meme purposes.
Yes, he's just there. He's just there to eat his mayo and go home.
Speaking of mayonnaise, Matthew Stafford, man, that dude looks like mayonnaise. And when I mean that, I mean he looks sluggish. He looks tired. He looks like he wants to go home to his kids. he looks miserable, and I'm just gonna say this about the Rams because I don't really want to talk about them because they don't have anyone else cool to talk about anymore. The
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals are going to be a good football team this year. The Los Angeles Rams. That's all.
They
Yeah.
are a
There's
football
no one.
team.
There's no one good to talk about because all their guys are hurt now. And as for the Cardinals, guys, this might come as a shocker to many. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be just fine.
Okay, I was up 24 to 14. Thank God. Okay, I don't have to. No, we're winning the game. Sorry to interrupt. I'm very
It's
glad
okay.
Iowa isn't doing Iowa things anymore.
Yeah, it's okay. It was just so funny, like knowing knowing some of the concern about Marvin Harrison Jr. after week 1, and just in the first quarter of week 2, he's already got like over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Real quick, Jucker Bear, what were you doing Galaxy Gas there for a moment? What was that?
No, I just have a my nose is all stuffed up.
Well, the joke didn't quite land. But
Not
you want to
quite.
know what didn't land? Uh, the Broncos offense.
They
Get
never
it, guys?
land.
They keep on riding off to the sunset. Little do they know, the sun setted 10 hours ago. They're riding off into nothing.
Womp
Now,
womp.
I feel like I'm sure somewhere, even though he's not starting, Russell Wilson is having the biggest laugh right now because these first 2 games for the Broncos have done a lot more damage to Sean Payton than I think any game from last season did.
I could have told you he was
This Bro-
cooked. I'm a Saints fan, but
this
no.
This Broncos offense is horrific. Like, this is the kind of offense that I remember from the Nathaniel Hackett season. Oh my God, how is this offense so bad? How do you make Brandon Perna somehow sound more depressed than he ever was with the Broncos?
Look. Here's the thing, guys. The Broncos just need to have the new
Worst game ever.
worst game ever. They just need one more bad loss. They just need one more bad loss and they'll start winning again. You don't get it, guys. You don't get it. But yeah, I do want to say this real quick. Justin Fields has whelmed me on the Steelers. He has been the table salt that's kept the Steelers playing. I'm not gonna say that he's played awful, but I'm not gonna say he's playing good. He has played like a decent-ish quarterback.
Yeah,
And as a Bears
yeah.
fan, I'm happy.
Yeah, I'll say it because Fields has remained. These first 2 games haven't changed anything about how I see Fields. He's still an inconsistently mediocre quarterback. Like he's still that quarterback where you'll see an incredible moment. It'll make for a great highlight reel. We all saw that in Chicago a lot, but he'll also still be inconsistent. But the thing with Fields and the fact that the Steelers are 2-0 can tell you this. Despite the fact that he's a mediocre quarterback, that's a good thing for Pittsburgh though. He's an average quarterback. But you know why it's a good thing? Because the past 5 seasons, the Steelers, they've had garbage quarterback play. They have been stuck with things like washed up Big Ben and Kenny Pickett. They have been stuck with horrible quarterback play that has dragged them down and made their games an even bigger chore to watch than they usually are. So even though Fields isn't, isn't gonna light the world on fire, the fact that he's being average is a welcome sight for the Steelers because you will, with how much bad quarterback play the Steelers have had in recent years, you will take average, you will take decent, you will just take something that isn't shit.
Also, I have some somewhat breaking news. Per Adam Schefter, several teams have expressed an interest in trading for Bryce Young. So Bryce Young may be traded before the deadline.
If that happens, and and that solidifies Carolina having the worst first overall pick in NFL history. Even if he does succeed later down the line, it's not going to be with Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. But Nick, why are you committing pass interference on me, Nick? It's Chiefs Bengals. I don't want to talk about the
Ah,
Chiefs, man. I don't want to talk about this team. It looks like the same team as last year, or they're just getting wins out of their hat, and Patrick Mahomes really isn't doing much because legitimately he has just done good enough at football that I'm whelmed by him. I'm gonna say
yeah.
this, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but Patrick Mahomes has reached his Tom Brady point of where he's not special anymore. It's normal for me to see him do stuff like this. I
I
do not
mean,
care that to quote Schaefer Willis in from his Emoji Movie review. I did not hate every single moment of watching this football game. There was a thing or two that was a pretty cute concept. I guess my entire reaction to the team is meh.
I mean, I think the thing with Mahomes is, I mean, it will get old eventually, as it did with Brady when you watch him do the same thing over and over again and it working every time. I think the thing that kind of sours me a bit with Mahomes is more the fact that he just hasn't been playing as spectacular as he did in other years. And this goes back to last season where he had a down year. But, Mahomes, the Bengals defense, until those final moments, they contained him a lot for the game. The fact that he threw 2 interceptions, like, Bengals had the Chiefs right where they wanted them, and they just could not seal the deal.
It's just there's nothing more to really talk about the Chiefs anymore. Do any of you guys have anything else to really say about them? Because I don't feel like there's anything else we can say about them because they're just that boring now.
Well, there is one thing. Pacheco's going to be gone for a while. That could severely
Yeah,
neutralize their running game.
Yeah.
that's true. But when every single fifth and sixth round pick that you pull somehow turns into a generational prospect, I'm fully convinced Carson Steele is going to run for 200 yards next week just because to piss off people, I guess.
Mm, yeah. I mean, that just felt like a Chiefs game that's become the standard with more with each passing season that Mahomes continues his Tom Brady route. But yeah, not much really else to say.
Well, we have Bears Texans, which I already talked so much about it on the Untitled Bears recap. So I'm gonna let you all kind of just say whatever you want about it, and I'll keep it to this. People need to stop overreacting. Caleb had a Caleb had a decent-ish game against a very good defense, and the coaching minus the challenges was not that bad.
I'll
Only
give my
real
stock.
negative, I'd say. You go. You go.
Actually, no. Go ahead, Noah. You're the Texans fan. Go ahead.
I'd say the real only problem for the Bears through the game that was generally a big problem was that offensive line. Particularly if I remember his name, Ryan Davis, who was positively god awful.
Nate Davis, but yeah.
Nate Davis. Yeah, he was positively god awful.
hmm Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point to make. So as the other Bears fan here, um, this was definitely, it was definitely a frustrating game to watch. I mean, I know the Texans are a very good team, like there's no denying that. And I'm glad, like, okay, we didn't get blown out. We stayed in it against a very good Texans team, and lost by 6. It's like, there's worse ways to lose, even if it was, very frustrating watching the offense, stall out over and over again. So the positives from this game is okay. The defense played very well once again. I had a little bit of struggles in the first half, but they locked it down in the second half. Love to see that. Okay, I expect that from the defense. Very good to see. The offense, I mean, Caleb really struggled in the second half, but the first half, he did look fine. It's the kind of first half you'd like to see from your rookie quarterback, where it's like, okay, he looked a lot more comfortable. He looked, he looked way more like in the pocket and just looked, ready to know what he had to do once the time came. And the thing is, the fundamentals seem to be there with Caleb. Like he's throwing the ball at a reasonable time. He's like, it seems he's still reading the field fine. It's more just, when the pressure is coming, and there was a whole ton of pressure in this game because the Bears O line just completely imploded against the Texans. It just it led to bad results, and it led to Caleb having to play hero ball at times, and that led to really things you'd not want to see from the Bears offense. So going into this upcoming game against the Colts, like there are things that I'm like, okay, guys, it's been 2 games, like give it time. Like I'm not here to overreact after just 2 games. I think a lot of it, like Caleb, I think will be fine. I think, some parts of the O line, like I expect Wright, Jenkins will start getting better soon, hopefully. I think they can play better than they have so far. But the concerns for me are the concerns where I'm like, okay, yeah, I think Bears fans have every right to they have every right to justify their anger towards these issues are the interior O line, which has been the biggest thing dragging the Bears O line to hell through these first 2 games. Because I mean, whoever our center has been just has not been panning out, regardless of who it might be. And Nate Davis just fucking sucks. So that has not been what the Bears have needed to start the season, especially with a rookie quarterback, behind the wheel and, giving up 7 sacks and just giving up an endless amount of pressure is just unacceptable from the O line, and that's something to panic about. And I do know that, okay, I definitely think the O line is the biggest problem here, but I also do think that, listen, there are definitely some moments where I need to see some adjustments from someone like Waldron. I need to see some adjustments because I know it gets limited with the play calling because of how bad the O line has been, but like at the same time, it's like I still think we can do better at that. Now, the big thing for this upcoming game against the Colts will be can the O line hold up against a Colts run defense that has not been good at all, and can the Bears' run game get going? Because I think the biggest thing that's really been putting a lot more pressure on Caleb Williams outside of the O line struggling has been the fact that the run game just hasn't gotten going. And knowing that we're playing a Colts defense whose run defense has been atrocious, to put it kindly, this is a big test. This is the kind of game where you need to see that run game show up, or else we're gonna have more panic, and probably more justified panic, because it's like, okay, what the hell's going on here with the run game? Because you're asking for a lot more than you need to be asking from Caleb Williams if you're having to completely rely on the passing game because the run game just can't get going. But yeah, that basically sums up my thoughts on the game. Like, it's far from the worst game the Bears have ever had. It's still, frustrating to see, the O line struggle as badly as it did.
Well, the Texans fan would like their perspective, probably.
Well, I'd like to mention one thing regarding the Texans. Uh, where's Tank Dell? He hasn't been anywhere this year so far, and he was the #1 receiver last year for Stroud. But the most notable thing he's done in the first 2 weeks was drop a touchdown pass that was overshot a little by Stroud, to be fair, because of great pressure. But still, without for as good as Texans have been, and even though they're 2-0, they could be a lot better if Tank Dell was present, but he just hasn't. It's largely been Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Also, the hope is that Joe Mixon will be okay for week 3 because he had a bit of an injury scare earlier in the Bears game.
Yeah, he did.
Well, I guess
right.
what are your thoughts on Shazir Al Shahiz doing that thing that he
That
did?
probably should have been a penalty. That should have been a penalty, honestly. I don't know how they got away with that. The refing,
Uh,
especially in a game that was full of flags flying every 5 seconds, and they miss arguably the most obvious flag of them all, which is absolutely hilarious in hindsight.
Yeah, that is funny in hindsight.
I guess
Fortunately, I
my
don't think
last
really
thing.
led to anything. I don't think Houston got any points out of that drive, if I remember correctly.
I
Yeah, I
don't
don't think
think
they did.
so. I was gonna say too. How did you feel that Stroud performed against the Bears defense? Because I felt like Stroud did well, but like that feels like kind of a bit of a disappointment for a player like him.
Yeah. The second half was just complete Bears domination on defense. Stroud did not have a prayer after the touchdown pass to Collins in the first half. He
Also,
also
too,
got.
what do you
I
think?
think people forgot that the Houston got away with a dropped interception too. That would have been a pick six.
Yeah, I was gonna say as well. What are your thoughts on D'Amico Ryan's comments about the game? Because he kind of had some pretty weird comments, at least from what I've saw. Like he was saying, like Al Shazier he wasn't like right for hit, but he was like he wasn't wrong. He didn't commend his player for it, which like I don't know, man. That doesn't seem right to me. If my player's hitting another player, like socking him in the mouth,
He
that's
didn't.
not good.
He didn't approve of it, but he didn't really take him down. He didn't really hold him accountable either. He played the PR game basically.
Yeah. So like I'm a
Honestly,
little go ahead. I was just surprised
well,
about I'm just interested what you got to say.
to be honest, I really don't have any opinion on that. All I know is that all I know is that he should not have that punch was completely unnecessary and was a missed flag. And the only reason
Yeah.
why it wasn't brought up, and the only reason why it wasn't brought up more was because it didn't really lead to any points.
Fair enough. Well, we got one more game left on everything. I don't have to worry about Iowa losing, thank God. It is now Falcons versus Eagles, which
The
can we
funniest
say
game of them all.
can we just say that the Eagles are overrated? Can we please just say that?
I don't know
They didn't
what's
have
been going on with. Wait,
they just haven't been impressive at all, the Eagles.
I don't
I
know
mean, when
what's
you
going on with their offense, but man, the difference between 2022 and the past 2 years has been night and day. They just can't do anything this time. They're struggling to move the ball downfields. All of their touchdown drives seems like they're dragging an anvil to the end zone every single time.
That
yeah,
Anvil's named Jalen Hurts, by the way, but I'll get into that in a bit.
I mean, this game was so funny because it felt like the most typical Falcons game where it just felt like, well, Kirk Cousins is here, and they're just, they just can't get, they held the Eagles strong for a while, but just cannot get over, can't hold them off long enough, and it looks like the Eagles are gonna win this game, but no, that's not how it ended. That's not how this game ended, and that's the funniest route that Fanes could have taken with this.
I'm just saying, Kirk Cousins, he's leading the way for Jesus. He's letting him take the wheel.
Yeah, I think after watching how that game went, I think Kirk's all right, folks. I think he's healing up pretty fast.
Well, the thing is, too, it's like the Falcons have a good roster. It's just like I think the main thing is that they're going to have that Tampa Bay syndrome when Tom Brady went there. Not to saying that Kirk is on the level of Brady, but like it's going to take a bit for things to mesh. And I think a lot of people haven't really understood that recently. And like it's
Yeah.
okay for a team to not be good at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially in the Falcons case, that it's like, I mean, you'll definitely take, someone like Kirk over some of the quarterbacks you've had since Matt Ryan retired, because, I mean, God knows what would have happened if frickin' Desmond Ritter was out there on that final drive.
I'll tell you what happened. Desmond Ritter wouldn't be on that drive because he would have already been benched for Taylor Heineke.
Bro. It's like it's things like that where it's like I think Falcons fans see like, yeah, this is why, even if it turns out to be like an overpay or something, like this is why you give Kirk Cousins the money, because it's like this is much better watching this than having to watch Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke.
To be fair, Taylor Heineke is the greatest quarterback of all time. So like, let's not totally diss him.
I mean, true, he almost led the Washington football team to a playoff victory against Tom Brady.
Exactly. But yeah, overall, pretty awkward week, but also not a bad week. Um,
Yeah.
it was truly one of the hectic weeks that we've seen in a while. Still, though, nothing's on the par of the Week 18 bullshit that was 2021. But like, we're starting to get back to that crazy old football lass. She's seeing us walk by the door, and also here's a little bonus game to talk about. Because it is really funny. Western Illinois University, they did not lose today. How did they not lose? Because they didn't play a game. That's
Congratulations, you
right.
beat the bye week.
We beat the bye week, everyone. We're not entirely cooked. But I
Yeah.
will say this. I will say this just as the resident Western Illinois fan. We did score 31 points last week. I'm not saying that we're not going to beat McKendree, but I'm also not saying we're going to beat McKendree next week. Uh, I guess too, just so we can get a little bit of a recap of everyone else's teams. UNLV did not play this week, as far as
Mhm.
I'm concerned.
Yep, they should be
Uh,
ranked though tomorrow. They should be ranked.
Penn State did Penn State things, except they weren't being funny against Bowling Green again. They were convincingly beating the shit out of Kent State. Which, by the way, did you watch any of that game, Noah?
Eagles versus Falcons, or a different one?
No, Kent State versus Penn State.
Truth be told, I was mostly focused on Mets versus Phils because that one was the most obvious Penn State win ever. All I can say is that all I really remember is that their starting quarterback went down earlier and was carted off. Just kind of lost all interest in the game from there on.
Um, but yeah, Kent State versus Penn State. Kent State's leading quarterback, went 2 for 6 for 18 yards. Their next quarterback went 0 for 6 for 0 yards, and then their next quarterback went 0 for 1 for 0 yards. In total, Kent State had a whopping, and I mean whopping, take 56 plus 18, minus 2, had a whopping 72 yards of offense today. Wow, that is bad. And lastly,
Yeah.
we have University of Central Florida football. They had a bye week, but next week they go up against Colorado, and be there when Jugger Bear has to eventually whine about losing to Deion Sanders next week. Even though, God, I hope they beat Deion Sanders.
Guys, I have
But
bad news. I have bad news. Florida State has won a football game.
those bastards.
They've ruined the California dream. This is bullshit.
Can we please relegate FSU to FCS?
Oh
I also
man.
love how the first thing I see is shit FSU Twitter on my fucking page. But yeah. Any closing statements from our fellow host?
I got nothing more to add.
Noah?
Well, all I can say is I'm just going to be really fascinated how the Panthers go out the rest of the year. Bryce Young's been benched for Andy Dalton, and I just don't know. I think Andy Dalton may be more competent as a quarterback, but he's still got to deal with the same offensive line, the same lack of separation, and the same organizational malpractice that Bryce Young is going through. I just don't see him having much better fortune than Bryce is. Maybe he'll be throwing better, but I just don't think he'll get much better results. That's all I got to say.
Jugger Bear? You got anything to say, Jugger?
So there.
Jugger Bear, no, we can't end this stream.